Peak Star Wars is almost back. That's right, the Andor hype train has pulled into the station, with Star Wars dropping the Season 2 trailer on February 24th, just 2 months ahead of the premiere on April 22nd. Andor Season 1 holds a special place in my heart. Aside from being some of my favorite Star Wars content of the last few years, it really kickstarted this YouTube channel back in the fall of 2022. Seriously, go look at our old videos. With the second season of Andor just around the corner, we thought there was no time like the present for a refresher and dive into some of the main things that you need to know before the new season airs. Plus, a fair bit of speculation based on what we do and don't know about the series. With that in mind, there will be spoilers for both the first season of Andor and Rogue One too, so you've been warned. We'll start out by talking about the show's release schedule. One of the biggest changes between the first season and the second season is that instead of being released at a rate of 1 episode per week, we will instead be getting one 3-episode arc per week for 4 weeks straight. For example, Season 1, Episode 4, Aldhani, saw Andor and the group of rebels planning a raid on an Imperial base, hoping to steal the quarterly payroll that was being kept there. Episode 5, The Axe Forgets, continued on the arc, with the group preparing for their mission and setting up the stakes for what would happen if they failed. And then finally, Episode 6, The Eye, gave us our big, spectacular payoff where they pulled off the mission. Most of the episodes followed this similar kind of 3-act, setup to tension building to payoff structure spread across 3 episodes. But instead of releasing them at a rate of 1 at a time, with a full week's wait in between each, we're going to get the whole 3-episode arc in one drop. Crazy, I know. It's going to be like getting a brand new Star Wars movie every week for a month straight. Following on from this, each arc will move us 1 year closer to the events of Rogue One, with episodes 1, 2, and 3 set during the in-universe year 3 BBY, episodes 4, 5, and 6 in 2 BBY, episodes 7, 8, and 9 in 1 BBY, and episode 10, 11, and 12 in 0 BBY in the days leading up to where we first met Cassian in Rogue One. In fact, rumors have stated that Andor Season 2 may wrap up just minutes before the movie begins. Cassian Andor himself, Diego Luna, has said it will change how we view Rogue One, telling Entertainment Weekly, quote, "I think people watching Rogue One after watching Season 2 are going to see a different film. Everything will be signified differently, knowing that had to happen for K2 to be there. It's going to make you witness the journey of Rogue One in a different way, I think. And not just with K2, but with many other characters. I think it'll be really cool." Compared to Season 1 of Andor, where the entire series was set in the year 5 BBY, we're going to have a lot more time jumps and a lot more opportunities for different characters to come into play. But a little more on that later. It's also quite important to remember that Season 1 of Andor was a slow burner. It took some people quite a while to get into it, myself included, and it wasn't a massive instant success like The Mandalorian was. The Mandalorian told a self-contained story in each episode, whereas, as we just discussed, Andor really stretches that story out. Still, with that being said, Andor was received with critical acclaim, and both reviewers and general audiences found it to be one of the most compelling and highest quality pieces of Star Wars media in a long time. Show writer Tony Gilroy has called Andor Season 2 his most important project of all time, and says that because Season 1 was so well received critically, he was granted even more creative freedom for Season 2. So much so that he told Empire magazine he received no notes requiring changes from Disney. But with that out of the way, let's delve into the in-universe story of Andor Season 2 and what you need to know. Firstly, Cassian Andor is not actually part of the rebellion yet. When we left him at the end of the first season, he seemed ready to commit to something bigger than himself, seemingly joining Luthen Rael's network of operatives. Cassian had been through a lot. He had seen the brutality of the Empire firsthand, was imprisoned on Narkina 5, saw his friends die, his home planet of Ferrix occupied, and lost his adoptive mother Marva. It's no wonder Cassian was ready to make a change and get involved in something else. Season 1 was about him learning to fight for something bigger than himself. Whereas Season 2 is more than likely going to show how he becomes more ingrained into the Alliance, eventually reaching the rank of captain in the intelligence branch. In fact, the recently released trailer seems to show that Cassian is choosing the more violent path of rebellion, not only fighting for the rights of the galactic citizens, but also exacting his revenge for everything that happened in Season 1. This transformation from a lost and broken man to a fully fledged rebel is going to be an exciting one. One of the most interesting things about the show is that it doesn't completely paint the rebels as the good guys. Sure, compared to the Empire, they're saints, but the rebellion has to do dark and evil deeds of their own for the greater good. No rebel personifies this more than Saw Gerrera. His moral flexibility made him an intriguing character in the first season, as well as the Clone Wars and Rogue One. So hopefully we're going to see that gray area of the rebellion again, even though I don't forgive him for what he did to Tech in The Bad Batch. Perhaps we'll see the tipping point that caused the Alliance to distance from Saw, and why he and his partisans ended up on Jedha come Rogue One. Another character who walks that fine line is Luthen Rael. But whereas Saw verges more towards extremism, Luthen is more of an idealist and a realist, having sacrificed everything to help form the early rebellion. Unfortunately, we only get one quick shot of him in the trailer. What this means is pretty ambiguous, but we know he's not in Rogue One. So the odds are pretty high of him meeting his end in the name of the rebellion that he has worked so hard to build. Something else that you need to remember is that we're in an era where the Empire is in full swing. The Dark Times, as it is often referred to. The Empire is nearing the height of its power, and its primary weapon, the Death Star, is nearing completion. Constructing something so massive and devastating is not a quick task, and the Empire had a lot of things to figure out along the way, including where they were going to get enough material to construct a moon-sized battle station. Then there was the issue of Galen Erso's compliance, a character who could very well make a cameo in Season 2. But now it seems the Death Star seems close to being finished, with the super laser being the only remaining part to fix into place and test. As we know from Rogue One, the Death Star's first target was Jedha City on the moon of Jedha, so we know that we won't see its full might be released during the events of Andor Season 2. What we do know is that director Orson Krennic will be returning to oversee the project, meaning that this second season is going to be gaining an incredibly charismatic and arguably relatable villain to go alongside the likes of Dedra Meero and Cyril Karn. It's going to be interesting to see Krennic try to fit into high society alongside the likes of Mon Mothma, while at the same time butting heads with Dedra Meero and the rest of the ISB in his attempts to get the super weapon finished and impress the Emperor. In Rogue One, we saw Krennic as sort of an underdog, the one who was struggling to make a name for himself and advance his career in a cutthroat and ruthless empire, particularly dealing with scrutiny from Grand Moff Tarkin and Darth Vader. Hopefully we see more of his struggles in Andor Season 2, making his attempts to climb to the top even more futile. With the Death Star being a looming and ominous threat on the horizon, one that the Rebellion doesn't even know about yet, it's going to be fun to see how Krennic handles things and plays into the story. Another set of characters that would logically make sense in Andor Season 2 are the Ghost Crew from Star Wars Rebels. Sabine, Hera, Zeb, Kanan, Ezra, and Chopper were all alive and present during the years that the second season of Andor will be set, and they had very strong links to the Rebel cell based on Yavin 4, where Cassian is shown in the trailer and Rogue One. In fact, in Rogue One, we got a brief Chopper cameo as well as a shout out for General Syndulla, meaning that the Ghost Crew are there, just off camera, busy with their own missions. However, whether these characters should show up is a different question entirely. Andor is a show that has shied away from cameos and appearances of other characters from the wider Star Wars universe, mainly relying on its own diverse cast of characters to tell the story. But still, an acknowledgement that Andor and the Ghost Crew are operating for the same rebel group and are based in the same place could be a welcome nod that warms the hearts of many Star Wars Rebels fans. But someone who definitely will be showing up is Andor's sassy droid, K2SO. Here's where things could get slightly messy though. We already have the canonical story of how Cassian and K2 met in a comic released around the same time as Rogue One. In it, Cassian and two fellow Rebel operatives are sent on a mission to the planet Wikiko to recover crucial Imperial intel. They are stopped by several KX security droids, and Cassian has to reprogram one, with that droid becoming the K2SO that we all know and love. Now, the show may choose to adapt this comic into an arc of its own, or they may choose to overwrite it and go in their own direction. The chances of the comic being ignored in favor of another story are pretty high, though elements may be included just as a nod to the original comic. Another incredibly important event that we are very likely going to see is the Gorman massacre. In fact, I think this could be the shootout shown in the trailer. Back in Season 1 of Andor, Mon Mothma was incredibly concerned about how the Gorman people were being treated. As a senator and an advocate for peace, Mon Mothma wanted to keep the people safe, and we see her struggling to keep them safe through political channels. Unfortunately, we know that the massacre happens, and it's the thing that pushes Mon over the edge. In fact, we see part of her story play out in Star Wars Rebels, where she flees and gives a big galaxy-wide speech condemning Palpatine and his empire, making her a full-fledged fugitive and rebel. Hopefully, we get to see this massacre play out on screen, as well as a live-action reenactment of the epic speech she gave in Rebels. That would make for a nice crossover that is not too in your face, while still remaining true to canon and linking Andor even more closely to the wider Star Wars universe. We could talk so much more about Andor and what we think and hope might happen. And who knows, maybe we'll do another video a little closer to the release date, diving into some more specific theories. But for now, let me know your theories and hopes for Andor Season 2 down in the comments section.